My guest this morning, Professor Godfred A. Bokpin, economist and professor of finance at the University of Ghana. He got into the studio telling me something about being needy and needing some GETFund. Also here in the studio is Alhassan S. Suhini. He's member, Appointments, Lands and Forestry Committees of Parliament. Again, and to my right now, Alexander Afenyo-Marking. He's member, Public Accounts, Defense and Interior Committees of Parliament. And Martin Pebu is a lawyer and a rights activist. Gentlemen, good morning and thank you for making time.
Thank you.
Right. So we'll start right away from the GETFund Secretariat. Professor Kweku Azar says that place is a crime scene. Why is he saying so? And do my guests here agree? After all, it's only less than 200 MPs or politicians and media personnel who benefited from the audit, who benefited from the scholarships. So what exactly is the problem? Let's begin with Professor Godfred Bokpin. Prof, so you have read what the Auditor General issued, and as we know the facts, 3,112 beneficiaries, 2,117 were unlawfully granted scholarships to study abroad. That's what the audit declares. And this is an audit, performance audit, spanning 2012 to 2018. Prof, which portions of the audit catch your attention and what should we make of it?
Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning, and good morning to our cherished viewers. So, should I say I was surprised? Maybe I'll say no. I will say no because the perception about GETFund out there is not one that serves the common good. The perception out there is not one that serves the ordinary Ghanaian. That said, I want to look at the report from two levels. One was about some individuals who have come out to indicate that they did not benefit from that, and that their names perhaps wrongly appeared in the report. And to that extent, I want to humbly suggest that because of the significant role that the audit report plays in our governance today, it will be very, very important that perhaps the Auditor General will be a little bit more thorough and be a bit more careful in putting out a report. Because whether we like it or not, since he was appointed and the work he has done so far, there's some level of acceptance of his report in our governance space, for which reason we recognize that Ghana has a future to some extent. So to that extent, I believe that we acknowledge the boldness, but I will also be grateful if you will be humble enough where things haven't gone wrong to just admit and then apologize. Particularly, we are talking about people's reputation and all of that. So, because whatever information you put out, and especially on your website, it's your report. And to that extent, when you take the credit, you must take the debit as well for it. That is what I will say.
So can you address that issue? What are you saying? That because there are people who have come forward to say, I have seen my name in the report, but I never benefited as claimed, or what? I never applied. Therefore, the Auditor General should take the blame?
Yeah, what I'm saying is
that's
that
a
because
mistake he should apologize for.
that could be a defect in the report, to the extent that it's your report, and part of the audit process is not just to take whatever that the entity gives to you and put it out there. You verify, you examine, you cross-check, and all of that. So I'm saying this because if you look at the dynamics today, and given how he was appointed and when he was appointed and all of that, you don't want to give room to people to begin to read negative meaning into what you do particularly. And that is why I'm just giving this caution that going forward, we have to be a little bit more thorough. Of course, speed and then quality, we have to be able to balance that very well. So that is the point that I'm trying to make.
Just hold
but
on.
that doesn't...
Just hold on. That issue has come up. What do you say, Soini, that the Auditor General generates a report from an audit, and there are portions that people have issues with because their names are on the list and they either never applied or applied but refused, never got the money, and yeah, so what's really what he's saying?
Well, let me say good morning to you and to my colleagues on the panel and to our cherished viewers and listeners. I think that I don't entirely agree with him when he suggests that the Auditor General, exercised wrong discretion in putting out the documents that he was given from GETFund, and to suggest that he did not examine those documents before putting them out. I think that there have been two reactions from the people who have been mentioned, and those who are raising the issue of their names being in the report, even though they did not get any benefit from GETFund, I think are doing so correctly. And I think the institution they must be pursuing is GETFund and not the Auditor General. I think they must be grateful to the Auditor General for putting this, out there for them to know if indeed they did not benefit from the fund, that people may have milked the fund using their names and using their identity, and for which they can now pursue justice, not only for themselves, but for all of us and for the fund.
But when you're doing an audit, you're supposed to do verification, or what is known as vouching.
Yes.
So if you're giving, information by the auditee that Honorable Soini got this amount of money for this particular program, is it not your duty to check and to be very sure about that before you conclude your audit?
You see, I think the Auditor General's work have to be understood within the context that it audits institutions. So, and it does so one at a time. So if it goes to GETFund and it's auditing GETFund, and GETFund has dealings with another institution or person, and GETFund gives records of that dealing to the Auditor General, it is not for the Auditor General to go to the other institution and begin another audit from that point, unless maybe when it is time for it to do so, then perhaps it can juxtapose whatever records it gets from that institution or person against what it got from GETFund when it was doing the GETFund audit.
Okay.
So in this particular case, the Auditor General was auditing GETFund, and so may have examined whatever GETFund gave to it. And I don't think it was for the Auditor General to go to all other institutions or persons named and audit them as well to see if indeed what GETFund has given it is correct.
Okay, so just that point, I need us to clear it before we proceed. So, Martin, what do you say about that? The Auditor General gets the information. Once he gets the information or the document, he has no role in verifying the information.
He surely must. He must.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I side with Professor Bobkin when he makes the point that, we all love the Auditor General, but we will beg that going forward, maybe they should scrutinize more because, yes, you see admission letters, you see award of scholarship, but you must verify whether they were really paid from the bank statements. I understand that bank statements were furnished to him. So cross-check from the bank statements that you were given, whether maybe Mr. X, who was awarded the scholarship, has really been paid through the bank statements. You see, that's very critical, because now you see that those few mistakes that have been made have really dented the work he's done.
Okay.
This is
so when you say mistake, what are you talking about? The publication of the list that has got the people who didn't know that they have been named as having received funds when they have not received. Is that the mistake? So that if they had cross-checked, they shouldn't have published that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes. They should have cross-checked. You see, if you're saying that Mr. X is taking money unlawfully, I think reach out to Mr. X, let him respond, just like the way you mentioned the voucher of verification. That would have saved us all this
Did the
trouble.
Auditor General say Mr. X has taken money unlawfully, or that GETFund has disbursed money that it can't account for?
It's one and the same thing. Like, I remember the last time the president using the phrase, it's like saying 6 of one and then half a dozen of the other. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering, that was the first time I'd heard that expression. Please, it's one and the same thing. You've disbursed money, it's public funds, and you know that once the report is going to become public, people are going to make comments, and rightfully so. You see how the whole nation is charged. So I think that it behoves on him to double check with, or apart from the auditee, also the alleged, the persons who have allegedly received their money unlawfully. In any event, you see, I don't know if we can make this point now. It looks like we've all been carried away by the point that has been made that the monies were given out unlawfully. I don't think it looks like that, because let's be very clear about this. The list was the budget was presented to Parliament, and Parliament passed it. And you know that you can't spend a dime without the Appropriation Act. So that's an act of Parliament. And I have been in court before. There was this now about the mistakes that the Statute Law Revision Commission made. So many mistakes. We all complain at the bar. Yet when we presented that case to the Supreme Court lambasted Parliament. But at the end of the day, they said, look, the reports were presented to Parliament. Parliament failed to scrutinize and pass. So for them, the Supreme Court wouldn't have anything to do with it. Look, I think it's instructive. Just one second. Let me just read a small part of it. Look, this is what they said. It is, however, a sad commentary that Parliament failed to live up to the trust reposed in them by the people of Ghana by their failure to be the true watchdog in such crucial matter. This is because the deliberations on the adoption of the 7 volumes of the laws of Ghana were hasty, superficial, and lacked any commitment. There was no indication of any elaborate study and scrutiny of the volumes for any informed contributions by members, blah, blah, blah. So I think this is the same thing, because I have seen an approval letter, several of them emanating from Parliament, where they said, look, at the sitting, they had approved the budget.
Okay.
And in it is clear that we are awarding X amount. So let's say off the top of my head, I can remember the one for 2016. They say, yes, we agree. They are awarding 20 million cedis for the foreign scholarships. And it's in there. And the parliamentary records, they are public records, so we can all access them. So let's not run away with this and that is unlawful.
So I saw you also nodding. Is it the point that when the auditors were giving the 3,000 plus lists, they had to call everybody, ask them, find their numbers, call them, ask them if you indeed received this money or you didn't receive the money? What are we saying?
All right, Samson, thank you for the opportunity, and good morning to my colleagues here, those viewing us and listening to us. We need to properly situate this argument. And
just this point.
Yeah. Validation of facts, very important, especially so when your final report would have consequences. So whichever means of validation or verification, even if it is 1 million, you should do so. Because today, you have a report out there, people reading all meanings into it. Somebody is injured, says that I didn't receive it. Yet you have drawn your conclusion. So when you do an audit, the auditee is given an interim report, the audit query,
Right.
for you to respond.
Exactly.
So after the response, then the final report is issued. My point is, as part of the interim, measures to make sure that your final report is accurate and all that, if you have in your record that Mr. A was paid so much or applied and all that, you can cross-check from the bank account. You can find a means of verifying whether indeed it is true. Because if you put the report out there and that report is not accurate, what have you done to the person?
Okay. You say if you come to a conclusion, what is the auditor's conclusion? Is it your understanding that the auditor's conclusion is that
They received the money.
Mr. A has received money and it's unlawful, and that's what the auditor went to look for? Is that what the auditor has said? Or the auditor says, GETFund says it has given Honorable Afenyomakin money, and this is the list of the people who received the money?
Yes, but you see, that would be the shifting responsibility. The report is your report. You now come and say, oh, it is GETFund that says so, so I'm not responsible. In fact, the Auditor General's response to Honorable Kennedy Nyako was most inappropriate. The choice of words, the language used, I think that he's over-personalizing the matter. It is his institution. For all you know, even this GETFund audit, he as a person was not part of the team. He has people doing the work, except as a head. So when some of these queries come, I beg of him, he should not personalize it, else he would fail in his job. He says he loves him. People love his work. Napo himself, who has become a victim of this whole brouhaha, has been talking for the auditor. I remember some time ago we came here, issues about auditor. Immediately after here, Napo called me, so Afenyo said, "They are okay, no, they be yambo papa no ye nejuma." This is what Napo told me. And in government, Napo has been a strong advocate for the Auditor General. So I am saying that.
I'm aware.
And you see, sometimes somebody cares about your work. You should also be a bit more responsible. You can't get up, right, and you meet your colleagues and you are just casting insinuations. If that's the way judges behave, then we are going to have chaos. I'll plead with him.
Did you read the letter that he replied to?
I read it. Very
You
inappropriate.
don't have anything with that letter? Any problem with that?
The response to
the letter he responded to, you don't have any problem with that one?
I say most inappropriate.
Oh, most inappropriate.
Yes.
But he shouldn't have replied in same measure.
What I'm saying, listen, the man writes to you. I agree with the first submissions by my respected colleague here, Professor, who says that, look, when you see that there is some inaccuracy and it comes to your attention, so obvious, take steps to cure it. But if you write, it's like you're being snobbish. You say, it's not me. Go to GETFund. Why? Is that the way the Auditor General is to behave? If your office is to safeguard the democracy, we all rely on you. So if you are doing it, do it as an institution. If you write such, and I think that even if you look at the way the letter was put, he didn't take his time to read properly. He just signed, and signed it.
Okay.
Said,
is that the letter you are looking at?
No. Oh, may I've read it in some
No, I like us to look at the content.
Read it in full.
And be sure about what you are talking about.
Yeah, I've read it.
Maybe it's one typo. I saw one typo. Look, we all.
No, I didn't say typo. I'm not talking about typo. I'm talking about the tone.
Is it Samson?
I'm talking about the tone.
I think
because the man expressed, with respect, Suini, the man expressed a genuine concern. He did not write to you personally. He calls his counsel to write. That in itself demonstrates that respect he has for your office. In responding to same, it is important that you also get, act in a measured posture. But if you write, as in, I am not responsible. I am not the one who did it. I got the information.
This
and
is-
I acted on it.
this
then
is
you
what
go
the
to
lawyer-
go to now attack
this
those
what the
who are
lawyer-
making comments on it.
No, let's share
It's
with
not
the
fair.
public. Let's share with the public.
It's not fair.
For those who may not be familiar with this, and then we check his response to it
Yeah,
to see
sure.
if it is not in good taste. His Kennedy Osei Nyako, the MP's lawyer, wrote, and among others says, "We are instructed to bring the following to your attention. That your office did a very porous job, unbefitting of a high office of an Auditor General. That you did no checks when you listed our client's name as beneficiary of GETFund scholarship." Sorry, forgive me. You did no checks when you listed our client as GETFund beneficiary. That if you had done your work diligently, professionally, and without any malicious intent, you would have known that our client has not received any money from GETFund, nor benefited from any scholarship to pursue further studies in the school you indicated. That as a matter of fact, your own bias finding, as published, did not indicate any amount of money for which our client is alleged to have benefited from. We are therefore at a loss as to the rationale, motive, or intention for including our client's name on your supposed list of GETFund beneficiaries. From the foregoing, it stands to reason that your work was grossly unprofessional, biased, unethical, incompetent, and was merely intended to cause public disaffection to our client, since the inclusion of his name on the list was made without any basis. And then they issued the threat of going to court. You say you don't find anything wrong with this, the tone of the letter
This
that got
is
to
a
him, right?
letter. This is a letter written by counsel, your senior, for that matter. Do you find anything wrong with it? I don't think
No,
you find
it's
anything
not
wrong
my
with
senior.
it. Gary?
No, it's not my senior.
Oh,
Yeah,
is it?
you proceed. The
Gary
question is, what do you say you don't find anything
No,
wrong with
you
it.
know there's nothing wrong with the letter.
It's not about me, it's about you.
No,
discussing.
but we know. We know that there's nothing wrong with this letter.
Okay.
Because you are injuring somebody's reputation. You put out there, the man is going for primaries. It's an election year. You go and say that the man has received money. You didn't cross-check with him. You didn't, then you say, he writes to you that is not appropriate.
Okay.
And you think there's something wrong with it?
Right.
Is it possible to read the Auditor General's report?
Then read the
in all
response
of
as
this,
well.
you know, I don't think that we should reduce the discussion to the exchanges of letters between the Auditor General.
It's part of it. It has
And
become
yes, it's
integral.
part of it, but we shouldn't
Please-
reduce
please
the
allow,
discussion.
please
to
allow.
that. So, but the question I ask myself in all of it, this discussion is, what difference would it have made to the report? To the report,
Excellent.
if he had done what is suggested?
His name would not have been there.
No, his name would still have
No,
been
no,
there.
his name would not have been there.
His name,
or he would have made a strong comment that he
You see,
never received.
No, exactly. But
Yes,
as an
that's the
auditor
difference.
general, it wouldn't have been for him to take out the name, even if he did the cross-checking.
Okay,
it would
so
have
let
been
me-
for him
let-
to
let me-
say. It would have been for him to report what he found.
Right.
That yes, I found from GETFund.
However, upon
if you
validation
find in
of
the
the
back-
fact,
But you see,
I came to a conclusion that
I think that
he
let's
did
not,
not.
be. You see,
No, no,
with
no,
all
it's
respect, with all respect, let's not be ridiculous. The Auditor General audits GES. I have been a member of Ghana Education Service before. So are we suggesting that the Auditor General should call all teachers in the country every time they audit GES to find out if indeed they have received monies advanced to them as allowances or salaries from GES?
but if they report, if they make a report,
there's
the
a-
fact that they have received.
Sampling is a technique
Excellent.
they use and all of that. But something, I was just a bit curious. You know,
I wanted
I'm
to
not-
read the auditor's
Yes.
reply too, because it has come
We
in
all see
focus.
it's a gentle response.
It says, I acknowledge receipt of your letter. Please be informed that my office did not cause to be published any supposed list of top public figures who are claimed to have benefited from scholarship at the Ghana Education Trust Fund, GETFund, as you allege. My office, in consonance with Article 1872 of the 1992 Constitution and Sections 13E or C and 16 of the Audit Service Act 2000 undertook a special audit at the GETFund office spanning the period 2012 to 2018 and submitted a copy of the audit report to Parliament as mandated by law, and pursuant to Section 23 of the Audit Service Act, a copy of the said report is published on our website. It should be noted that the information contained in an audit report is from the audited entity, and in this instance, every information or names that is contained in the performance audit report on GETFund came from GETFund, the audited entity. Certainly, my office has no malice or bias towards any individual named as beneficiary from GETFund in our audit report. Your grievance, therefore, is best addressed by GETFund, who provided the audit team with the necessary information and names of beneficiaries during the audit. Honorable Deputy Minister, accept the highest assurance of the Auditor General.
Without adjectives, without any, accusations.
So you say this is personal and in bad taste.
Read the introduction again.
The introduction?
Yes.
I acknowledge receipt of your letter dated so and so. Please be informed that my office did not cause to be published any, quote, supposed list of top official political figures who are claimed to have benefited.
Is that what Gary Nimako said? Gary never made reference to supposed top officials in his letter. His letter was direct. That's not what Gary said.
Do you want to read that letter again?
Of course, but is that what Gary said?
No, I just read that to you.
But I listened and I've read. That's not what Gary said.
I think we should move on.
Yeah, because he wants to stay there, and I will stay there with him. That's not what he
But the
said.
question I asked you haven't answered.
Which question was that?
You say this letter by the Auditor General is in bad taste.
Yes, it is.
But that by the lawyer is okay with you.
You see, Samson, beyond this platform, you are counsel. And you know that when somebody is defamed, somebody feels injured in that public space, he makes a strong case for same to receive appropriate response. If that man alleges bias, if he alleges malice, he does so on strong grounds because, in his view, and upon review of the facts, he has not received any GETFund money. Auditor General, you have the report out there that he has received, and he studied at this university.
Who says he has received? Is it the auditor who says Kennedy Osei-Nyarko has received money, or the auditor is publishing what he has been giving to even alert Kennedy Osei-Nyarko that GETFund claims you have received money?
You see, the auditor has published a report.
He says they didn't publish whatever. He said
no.
to Parliament.
Look, you see, let's situate it properly. If you have published your final report, it's a publication.
Right.
You circulating it is another matter. So you shouldn't say they haven't published. The fact that you have it on your website, the fact that you signed to the document, it's a publication. It's out there. So let's move on from there. The second point is this debate as to whether or not the Auditor General is to take a step further to validate facts.
And
then
I think
the shifting of responsibility.
I think you have spoken about that.
Yeah.
My question to you was specific, whether you find any problem with the first letter that he responded to, and you say you don't. Okay, so let's come to you, Prof. Yes, you were the one on.
Thank you very much. I'm just thinking that if you look at, I think the second paragraph, where it looks to me that given the query, sort of,
right,
he sought to explain by saying that I'm not the one to be blamed, that it's rather this way. But at this stage, it's your report we are discussing. At this stage, it's your signature that is on it. I said this also within this whole concept of public interest, because the public may not have the opportunity of double checking on anybody's behalf. And also, if you look at the way the Auditor General has carried his work since he assumed especially with the media engagement and all of that. It hasn't gone down well with everybody. That is not to suggest that I disagree with that motive, but I'm just saying that going forward, we want to be very, very thorough as much as possible.
The question has been asked. The question has been asked. Yes. If the Auditor General got to audit an institution, yes, and say it is auditing Toyota, yes, and he says this person bought, this person bought, this person bought, you are saying, or he's auditing ShopRite, he says this person came and made this purchase, yes, and that purchase, yes, you are saying that it is his job or the auditor's job to go find out from each one of these people that these people have done the purchases.
I don't have a problem. I mean, he doesn't need to check entire population. They have their own methods they use. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, your conclusion, you should own it. Look, in the run-up to the global financial crisis, accounting firms had issues. Mm-hmm. Credit rating agencies had issues. In fact, even Ghana's banking crisis, the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana had issues with the accounting firms.
Yeah. Find them.
And find them. Why did that happen? There's a certain expectation that comes along with the auditor's report and all of that. So I'm just saying that he doesn't need to give himself up in this manner for this kind of, other than that, you know, it takes away a certain credibility or a certain, which is not good, which is not good. And that's why I'm saying that
by the law,
I can easily forgive.
By the law.
And the reason I'm saying so is that mistakes are evidence that we are human beings.
By the law.
Well, let's admit where we have gone wrong. And I was thinking that for
by
this
the law,
report,
when they are doing their audits, when they find issues, they are supposed to discuss with the people they are auditing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Then the people must reply, must write to answer their queries. Yes. Then at a different stage, they are supposed to now ask the head of the institution, give them the report, their findings and recommendations, and get them to also do what? Write back, which is the management letter. Yes. Yeah. And they incorporate all of that in what they do. You say that is not good enough a process?
It's a process you go through to assure himself that what he is putting out there is something he can stand by at any time. Other than the accounting firms could have also explained this whole issue out and all of that and say that, you know what, this was what they gave me. Look, the fact that they gave it to you doesn't mean that you should just put it out there and say that, then go take them on. I'm saying that we all can do better. Remember, my understanding is that in auditing, it goes beyond the law. There are professional standards you have to keep to, ethical standards you have to keep to, and all of that. Because, you see, I hope we are not missing the point. The Auditor General is doing creditably well in the interest of Ghana. And when I said this, and I raised issues with what has happened, I'm saying so to encourage him.
All right.
That he can do better. Going forward, let's be a bit more thorough because you know how people are going to take your report. He himself knows how many people perhaps want him out. You don't give yourself out
Martin is referring to the law and he's got all of them in front of him. And the question...
I'm not a lawyer,
the question I need to get you on is this. Why do you think the law allows for punishment or criminal sanction against an auditee who gives false information or information he does not, he has reason to believe is not true? Why does the law, the Audit Service Act, punish them with criminal sanctions, including prison terms?
Yeah, obviously that is to make sure that the auditee would give the right kind of information. Because all too often we know how in certain institutions, excuse me, they can decide to frustrate the work of the Auditor General. Not only the Auditor General, various government institutions here and there. So it's obvious that we want to make sure that the answers given, the information provided is accurate.
Great. Who is the auditor auditing? Is it the individual whose name is being found or the institution?
It's the institution. But
and who is the report to?
It's to the institution.
Right.
But let's not forget that once people's reputations are at stake, it's just common sense that, look, we can reach out. We can reach out. They say just about 1,000 and something. Is that not so? The unlawful scholarship, so to speak. 1,000 and something.
2,000 plus.
Yes. So you get people, you pick up the phone, call. like Prof even said, if you don't want to call or sample, but bottom line is that once you put somebody's name out there and it turns out that it's false, as we said, it has greatly dented the work.
If the
You see for
auditor
the
is
past
auditing
20
you,
years.
if the auditor is auditing you,
Yes.
and he's bringing you his findings back to you, he's telling you that, Martin, you say you gave Samson 20 CDs.
Yes.
You didn't.
Yes.
What's wrong with that?
So definitely, then if the report shouldn't be out first. Then let the auditee further respond so that you can correct.
The auditee does not have the opportunity to further respond because he has responded first.
Yes.
His head of institution has responded second. And then at this point, the thing has to go to Parliament.
Yeah.
Public Accounts Committee has to vet it. If they have problems with you, the auditee, they will call you back.
Yes.
And then subsequently, if you are involved and you dislike, you go to court and appeal.
You know what? Yes, we'll be wasting this in taxpayers' money if we don't do a thorough job, end up in court, and then the case is thrown out.
All right.
Look, it's common sense that once people's names are involved, I think it behoves on the Auditor General to make sure that, look, as much as possible, all those ones are verified. Remember, we are even making the first point is that it's not been stated that he verified from the bank accounts because GETFund supposedly gave him the bank statement. So did you verify that payments were made from the bank?
That's okay.
And of course, by the way, I just hear he may be retiring soon. Considering the way we love him, we pray that His Excellency will give him an extension.
You see something?
Just one second. Just one second.
I plead.
So if auditor issues a report about an institution, and you, Martin, has been mentioned as having done something wrong, will you be unhappy about the one who did the audit or the one who gave the information suggesting that you have taken money from him when you have not?
No, something. The question itself has to be taken in perspective.
Yes.
The information I said, look, you know how audit are done. It's a mass of information. It's not as if GETFund selected them and said these persons.
No, Martin, answer my question direct. I own a shop.
Yes.
You have not come to buy anything.
Yes.
When auditors came, I told the auditors, you came and bought 100,000 worth of goods. Will you be happy? Will you be unhappy with me who did the audit, the one who did the audit, or I who told the auditor that Martin came to make purchase when he didn't?
Obviously, in this particular case, with you, because you gave that information. But please, analogies blur the argument.
Okay.
Okay? Analogies blur the argument. It's not the same as the one you put to me in respect of the GETFund. So that's not what I've answered.
I think that there's a need for us to stop grandfathering people, you know, in our national discourse because it only emboldens the wrong in most cases. And I am very confident that we are having this discussion because of the names of some people who are involved. But for these names, it is general, you know, knowledge, like my very good friend, Honorable Afenyo, indicated, that when an audit is carried out by the Auditor General on an institution, it's the auditee who responds. It's not whoever is found in the audit process. It's the auditee.
Common sense. Please, if you are going to injure somebody's reputation, what stops you?
No, it is
remember,
not.
the law can state everything.
The point I'm making is that it is not the Auditor General, if there is any injury to anybody's reputation, it is not the Auditor General who is doing that. It is the one who perhaps may be lying to the Auditor General who is doing that.
In law, if you publish it false, so if somebody, the originator, does it, and then you also pick it and republish, you are also liable for defamation.
I agree with that because I've also practiced.
Is the auditor liable to defamation?
Or presumably, in such a circumstance.
Check the law. Is the auditor liable to defamation?
Presumably, where you show that you have
finish the point. So let me finish the point I'm making. You see, there's a reason why in the law it's the auditee who must give a response.
Right.
So if in the course of the auditing, other names come up, why is it not captured in the law that those people must also be given a chance to respond? But it is the auditee who must give a response. And in this case, the Auditor General did exactly what is expected of it because it was auditing GETFund and not the beneficiaries. There can be an audit on the beneficiaries also. Let's not forget that. The Auditor General can carry out an audit that is specifically meant for beneficiaries, because in some cases, some people can even take these funds. Some people can take these funds.
Awarded to these people. You have extended this thing to them already.
No,
you don't need to do.
No. Listen.
Let's not begin to try and suggest what the auditor was doing. This is the audit. What the auditor says were the objectives. Objectives of the audit. One, to find out whether there are established systems, policies, and procedures to ensure economic, efficient, and effective use of public funds. 2, instituted measures to award scholarship within its allocation limits. Establish a selection process to ensure scholarships were granted to qualified Ghanaians. Instituted controls to secure the efficient and effective disbursement of public funds. So this is what they sought.
So Samson, the point I'm making is that let's not forget that the Auditor General can also choose to carry out an audit on beneficiaries of GETFund.
Okay.
Just so that perhaps we are informed whether these beneficiaries are actually using the funds for its intended purpose. In that case, it will now be the expectation that the Auditor General will be speaking to the beneficiaries and the institutions they claim to have attended.
Let's speak to the Auditor General's Department. Bernard Kondia, Assistant Public Relations Officer at the Audit Service, joins us. Thank you for joining us. Why this intervention?
Thank you very much, Samson, and good morning to your viewers and your listeners alike. I just want to clarify something small. That the audit that the Auditor General conducts, first, the Auditor General doesn't go to the field to do audit. It is the staff of Audit Service. So for anybody to impugn that he's targeting people will be most unfair and disingenuous. The staff go out there to do the audit. Now, the audit, just as you read the audit objectives, was to examine what transpired at GETFund. So the focus was on the institution. And so all the audit observations at any given time is given to the management of GETFund to respond. At the end of the audit, we organize what we call the exit conference, where we sit again with the management of GETFund, and in this case, we went through the issues one after the other. After which we gave them a draft management letter to look at the issues and respond in writing. Having done that, we gave them 2 weeks. And when they responded, we even had to extend the time for them. After which we wrote back to them officially, asking them to confirm that these information are the information they are claiming are the authentic and the records available to them. These evidence included even their own bank transfer advices to the various individuals and accounts. And so having done that, we put all these together and submit a report to Parliament as dictated by the law.
What you are saying is that you do not have any duty or obligation to verify the information that the auditees give you?
What duty we have is this. Having submitted the report to Parliament, PAC will then be looking at it. But where the Auditor General deems it necessary to disallow any expenditure and surcharge the persons, that is where we now get to the individual beneficiary.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the process. Bernard, listen to me. I'm talking about the process of auditing. I'm not talking about when you are done and submit report. When you are doing the auditing, please, can I ask the question? Can I ask a question? Yes, when you are doing the auditing,
yes, please.
You don't contact the third parties if third parties are involved. You don't contact them and ask them any questions. Is that what you're saying?
During the audit process, we do not. What we do is to obtain the relevant information from the management. The people we contact, if there's a management that has left office and we need to get to them, then we do. Where there is an agency, let's say the bank account of an institution we are auditing, where we need to obtain evidence of supposed transfers, we do. But the individual who, just like you said, if they bought something or someone receives something, we don't go to those individuals. What we need is proof of these transactions from the relevant institutions. Having done that, if we come to the conclusion that this payment is irregular or this payment is contrary to law, and therefore someone has to refund, that is where we now narrow to the beneficiary or whoever authorized that payment or whose negligence might have resulted in that. So in this particular case, GETFund says these people applied for scholarships, and these are their names. These are their approvals. These are the monies I have sent to all those individuals through my banker. We then request from the bank to get authentication of these transfers and then add them and send to Parliament. And that is why you realize that anytime PAC is sitting, they do not invite individuals unless there's a proof that the management of the entity is unable to provide every information the PAC needs. Else you realize PAC always invites only the management of the audited entity.
Right, but is this, you know, people have genuine questions. You must have your answers. For example, when I read your law, Section 33(1) of the Audit Service Act, which says anybody or the person who is giving you the information for your work, if they give to the Auditor General any information which the person knows to be false or which he has no reason to believe is true, they are committing a crime for which they will be punished. If you don't check and find and get to know that it's false information, how would they be punished? If your job is simply to collect the information and give it to the Public Accounts Committee.
Something you will agree with me that the law makes room for this to be done when we are to disallow an expenditure and proceed to surcharge the persons involved. That is why you now have to give notice of intention to these individuals as mentioned in the report or any other document that we used in arriving at these decisions. But the focus of the audit was on the administration of scholarship by GETFund and the processes they have put in place to be sure that they are indeed providing
it's not helping.
All right.
Shouldn't have put out those names.
All right.
That's all.
All right. Bernard, thank you very much for the intervention. Thank you very much. Now, can we
let's go
hold on. Can we have done quite a bit of time. Can we now move to the questions away from whether somebody did a good job or a bad job? This is one of the accountability institutions in the country. So what do we do with the report they have brought? Again with you.
Something like I said at the beginning, it's increasingly becoming clear that state institutions that are supposed to provide services, disburse money, are failing the ordinary people. In fact, when you scan the social media reactions, I get the impression that as a country, we need to be very careful because we are not heading well. The discussion and the mention of politicians constantly is not good. Look, we can situate all these things within the broader context of elite capture in this country. And when I talk about elite capture, I'm looking at it within it being a part or a form of corruption that takes that which should go to the ordinary and only goes to the benefit of the privileged few.
Yeah, that's what we should focus.
And this is what we should focus on. And this report should engineer greater reform, not only at GETFund, in this country, because you see, the elite capture is not only about politicians, it's about religious people as well, people in social class in terms of status, a certain economic standing, political affiliations, and all of that. They gel at that apex level to the detriment of the majority. And this further entrenches inequality.
You are saying it was wrong for MPs and whoever to access GETFund scholarship, for GETFund scholarship. Is that what you're saying?
You look at it within the entire process of how easy will it be for the ordinary person from my village, from your village, to have access to such a facility as compared to a politician, as compared to the elite in our society. This is the issue.
Is it wrong? Is it unlawful?
Look, do you know something? The law alone does not deliver the common good. The law may protect you in doing certain things, but God gave us conscience. We have ethical considerations, morality, the broader societal context. Something may be due you legally, lawfully, but for the sake of the common good, you want to let go and rather say that, you know what, it will have greater impact when it's given to X than when X bar takes it. This is the issue. Look, something. We are talking about this country. Do you know the number of people who are struggling to pay their fees? For some of them, it's just 100 Ghana cedis. Look, from the Office of Dean of Students, yesterday was deadline. Students were crying. Some of them just 50 Ghana cedis, 100 Ghana cedis, 500. We have PhD students in the University of Ghana who are deferring their courses, who are being prevented from writing their exams because they couldn't raise CD-denominated fees. We are not talking about dollars and the amount we are seeing here. And that is sad. We are not saying that they do not even apply. We know.
You're saying that an MP who is justifying to you that I needed to attend this conference to improve myself, to serve you better. You're saying, what is wrong with that?
Do you know something? We have limited resources. You are looking at where it should be deployed most to achieve the optimal results. These allocations would the impact will be suboptimal. In fact, you don't need a prophet on 31st December to tell you this is not the best way to allocate such limited funds. Look, and something beyond that, you see, this is a country that goes to borrow from outside. This is a country that is, our debt is 214 billion. If we divide that by the number of people we have in this country, each individual will perhaps more than 6,000. And we are using our hard-earned money, taxes, to build universities outside. We are making them better and better on yearly basis through GETFund allocations, whilst our public universities in this country are heavily underfunded. If you look at the amount of money, for individuals, for first degree and all of that, you have to do extraordinary to convince me that we don't have such programs in this country.
Excellent.
Something, this is the point that I'm talking about, that we have a certain amount of money. We don't have enough. The little that we have, is that the best way to use it? We all do know that education is one of the surest way of narrowing the inequality. Yeah. But the way we are also doing this, we are further entrenching the inequality. Yeah. And okay. Look, when we say let's narrow inequality through allocation of public resources and all of that, we are not doing the poor a favor. We are doing ourselves a favor, because the day there's trouble, they will not forgive. If just look at the anger on social media.
Somebody say the Arab Spring. I hope I don't get into trouble.
Let's hear from Suini.
People are frustrated.
Okay, so it's becoming clear now that some are investigating into the backgrounds of some of the people who received the money, who received the scholarship, and it's becoming revealing that it's not just. Don't even think about only the MPs and some of them, their relations and families that are known to be wealthy have their children or people from those families receiving very hefty sums in dollars to go to university, particularly to undertake first undergraduate programs.
Yeah. Well, Samson, I think that as a politician, I am embarrassed by the development. I will not, mince words about that. And I feel threatened. And so what Prof speaks about is something that we must all be concerned about. Our profession is under threat. And it may be as a result of our own doing sometimes, and perhaps the misunderstanding of what the society, have also of the profession that we engage in. I look at this from 3 angles. The angle of the Auditor General that we have dwelled so much on already, and the angle of GETFund. Then you also have the angle of the beneficiaries. So because we have dealt with the Auditor General's angle, I will not spend so much time on that.
You shouldn't.
So I think that he's doing a good job. He must be encouraged. Yeah. And I do not think that in this particular case, he did anything wrong. He was carrying out a performance audit and not a forensic audit. And
it was a special audit.
Yes. But
so it should have been forensic.
The regular audit has been done.
Okay, can I go?
Guys,
because this is a special audit.
To get your turn. Yes.
So, and I think he did what he has done with all institutions, and like the example I have given with Ghana Education Service, where he doesn't have to call all teachers and workers under the Ghana Education Service to find out if they indeed have received monies that Ghana Education Service would have suggested it dispersed to them. I have a few problems with some of his conclusions, though. For example, when he makes the conclusion that these funds that were advanced by GETFund were done, in some cases, outside the law. I do not have a problem if it turns out to be true, and so far, I don't get any response that suggests otherwise, that there was no structure or procedure at GETFund to determine who benefited or not. Right. That I do not have a problem with. But if he suggests that the GETFund does not have the mandate to support scholarship, I disagree, because if you look at the GETFund Act, it talks about how, I think that is 22E, it talks about how the Minister of Education, together with the board, can determine what GETFund supports.
Let's be clear about his finding. Yeah. The finding of the Auditor General says, while Section 22E allows for the promotion of other education, programs, it has to be done with the minister and in consultation with the board. Fantastic. There is no evidence of the minister's involvement, and there's no evidence of board consultation.
Fantastic.
That's the problem.
That is why I said that I do not have a problem with that part of the conclusion that says there may be no procedures and standards, because if there were procedures and standards, that would have been determined by the board and the minister. I do not have a problem if it concludes that there were no procedures. But if the general impression is given that GETFund does not or is not allowed to do scholarship, if that is the general impression, then I disagree with it. I'm saying that GETFund can do scholarship if it satisfies this, requirement of getting, approval from the minister and the board. It can do scholarships. Now, on the GETFund itself, let me put out that I personally know Mr. Sam Garba, who was the administrator of GETFund for the larger portion of the audit period. That is 20. He was in charge of GETFund from 2009, I think, to 2012. Now, this audit covered 2009
to 2018.
I think he went beyond 2012.
No, yeah, he finished in 2016. He started from 2009 to 2016.
You read his responses in the audit? Okay, you go on.
So I know him. I know him to be somebody, and anybody who has dealt with him will tell you that he's a very forthright person. You can fault whatever he does, but once he has a very strong
conviction, if he was allowed to do his work well.
Trust me, he is not a pushover. That I can tell you. Mr. Sam Garba is not a pushover. And so if he has a strong presence of mind and he's convinced about a situation, he will defend it to whatever level. And so I think whatever decisions he took there may have been driven by that conviction that I know he has. But it does not mean that he couldn't have made mistakes, even with that character and attitude that I know of him. Okay. But I think that the issue of some of the beneficiaries has for me, raise the question of how GETFund itself is managed and how it keeps its records. It may go beyond the administrator. For example, if names are discovered to have, or to names of people who are supposed to have received funding from the fund are claiming they did not receive funding from the fund, and yet monies were disbursed, it may even go beyond the administrator. There may be the need for us to look at the audit recommendation that there's a need for us to have a structure, or if you like, regulations at GETFund that will govern some of these things.
Some transparency.
And transparency in the award of contracts.
Right.
But you also have a situation where some professors and lecturers and others benefited from the fund. And I think that also is clearly within the law because it is for GETFund to support faculty. So I do not have a problem with such people. But the problem I have in this whole report is those with Article 71. And it has to do with even the presence of mind with that privilege to still apply for such support. I do not agree with the explanation that people who are MPs are not necessarily rich and maybe needy. I think that it is a correct argument that being privileged does not necessarily mean you are rich. But it also means that you have an advantage over those who are not privileged.
And you are exploiting that advantage.
Exactly. But you should not exploit that. You are allowed to exploit that advantage, but not to the detriment of those that you have that advantage over. That is why you are considered privileged. So you should not exploit that advantage you have to the detriment of those who are disadvantaged. And in the case of some of these members of parliament and ministers of state, what I see is what makes me embarrassed about the situation, because I do not think that
there's a
they should
portion
have
that
even applied.
you wanted to come in about the law.
Yes.
Now, looking at the law, what did you want to say? He says GETFund can give out scholarships.
Yes.
There's no problem with that. What did the Auditor General say is the problem? Reading section 2, subsection 2 of the law, what did the Auditor General say is the problem?
So he mentioned that the foreign scholarships, that's where the main issue is. The foreign scholarships, were illegal. Is that so? So he's saying that the payment of the money is illegal. And that is where I'm making the point that we should tread cautiously on that path. The reason is that, look, under the law, first of all, GETFund comes up with a budget. And even before the budget, actually, from what I understand, they sit down with the minister. That's been the convention. And you know that the law cannot detail every step. So the practice they have evolved, their conventions that they sit with the minister, they discuss and come out with a formula. So the minister sits in that meeting. Remember, under 2E, it's his prerogative to decide what else GETFund can do.
The audit report talks about the formula.
Yes. So he sits at the meeting. He's sitting at the meeting is not for nothing. He who does something through another does it himself. So you sit at the meeting and you agree that we will award scholarships. So let's say 2016, the report show, and they are in Parliament, 20 million, at least in the budget that was submitted to the minister. So they now write and then subsequently forward this budget to the minister. And remember that it's the minister who forwards it to Parliament.
That's right.
It is the minister who adds his cover letter and forwards that budget to Parliament. So that budget stands in his name.
Yeah, so what's the point?
So the point is that when the minister has sat down with them orally and discussed, same is being reduced into writing, sent to him, and he adds a further cover letter, sends it to Parliament, and Parliament approves this budget. You cannot be here to say that the payment of the money for the foreign scholarships is illegal. No, let's separate them. I agree entirely with Professor Bobkin about the fact that, look, we think there is a waste, they have been a bit reckless in some of the foreign scholarships. Yes, so that is where we should concentrate on. But as for the payment, to the extent that Parliament passes an appropriation act, it makes it legal.
GETFund,
yes,
the auditor's report,
yes,
finds has taken over the job of the scholarship secretariat.
Yeah.
Section 2, subsection 2B was their focus. They say the money from GETFund that goes to the scholarship, from GETFund, GETFund is to provide supplementary funding to the Scholarship Secretariat for the grant of scholarships to gifted but needy students for studies in second cycle and accredited tertiary institutions in the country.
Excellent.
They say for GETFund to sit and do that job, it's supposed to give it to Scholarship Secretariat to do that job. Are you saying they are wrong in saying so? They say that the money for the studies is supposed to be for institutions in Ghana.
Yes, that one you're right. But remember, we read the act as a whole. Then you go further in E and say, let me read that one too. I say, to provide money to support such other educational activities and programs for the promotion of education as the minister in consultation with the board may determine. So he's saying that at the listen, B, okay, it's section 2. They've done the local one. Then they think, oh, we think that for other courses, maybe the local capacity is not good. So we want to give out a bit for foreign scholarships. I think that can be justified under the E.
Is it a bit under the audit?
Yeah.
You have 3,100 and something.
Yeah.
Out of that number, you have 2,000 plus being for foreign
That is
scholarships.
where we should now make the point that that is not the intendment of the law.
The Ghana scholarships are 800 and a bit.
Which is wrong. So that
and
one
even if you look at the
point.
CD, the amount.
Yes,
That
that is wrong. And we must make that very clear.
We should use it to build our institutions.
Yes, so that one we agree.
And not foreign institutions.
Yes, so that one we agree. So once we segregate the issues, you see that is the main point we should be making here. And that's why the public, people are very angry, and rightfully so. But we cannot say that everything, every dime that was paid is illegal. No, it's just that it's disproportionate. And Article 296 even envisages that when you are given discretionary power, that you should be fair, you should be candid, okay, in exercising that power. So there is no reason why, when the main purpose of the law is to do local scholarships, you can give foreign scholarships that are disproportionate, way outnumbering and outcompeting
You were
the
a student
local
leader when GETFund came up. Mobrowa struggled, you remember?
And I was in level 100.
Okay.
Yes,
When it came out, what do you find, even in the face of the law, was the purpose of it?
Oh, obviously, we all agree that mainly to do local scholarships and also to help in the infrastructure. And you know, that's not even the first time. Kwame Nkrumah first started it. You know, he had this Ghana Education Trust Fund, to build schools and all that. Yeah, so this one is a continuation.
Okay, let me hear from Afenyoma King.
Something.
People say it is immoral, it is unconscionable, it is unethical, like Suhini has, reiterated here this morning, for members of parliament like yourself, privileged, well paid, quote unquote, doesn't matter that you spend it on your constituents.
Wait, yes, I agree with you, not well paid.
To take GETFund scholarship, irrespective of the fact that a portion of the law may allow it, to take the scholarship, go for a 3-week conference, spend money that could have been used to train as many as 6 graduates. You go for a 3-week conference that has absolutely nothing to do with your area of expertise.
Something, you see, if we would allow a broader debate on this matter, we'll get somewhere, and it will help our own democracy. So I'll start it at this point. I believe the concerns raised on this table, steps are to be taken to avoid abuse, reduce it to the barest minimum, so that if the resources are there and those who genuinely need it are benefiting, nobody would be angry. So even us as MPs, we have people coming to us. Recently, I did some auditing, and I realized that people were paying their fees and coming with the bill, still coming to take my money. So when we started paying directly, I told my guy that go and pay directly. It reduced. Then someone will say, I want the money back. I said, Then somebody is in a private university. They say that pay. I said, but you are in a private school. you have a public school, why are you not going there? So at my level, I have taken steps to reduce it, limit it, and ensure that at least the little I get is really going into those who need it. Now, let's come to this.
You do this with your common fund, not your pocket money, right?
Or both.
Okay, we have heard the defense that Adjosafo has given as many as 150, scholarships. So if she also got this, why are we,
shameful
crying about?
Others
I thought
more.
that you use money, which is tax money already, common fund, to do these things. So when you say, I give, so if I'm getting.
Is that what she said, or you've heard?
Oh, it's all over, part of the defense.
Let me develop my point. I know how you take people off their line. I know, but let me move on. The next point is the members of parliament issue. So I'm ready to debate you on the matter. You see, if we get overly emotional, overly sensational, we'll miss the point. So let's explain. If you are a member of parliament, you travel abroad on official duties. The state pays for you. You don't pay. It is money that could have been used to take care of the poor person in the village. Correct. You are paid a per diem. When you are a state official, the Auditor General gets his per diem. When he goes for courses, the state pays for it. When he travels abroad on official duties, the state pays for it. The Auditor General. And members of the audit service, they are all paid by the states. We don't say that those monies should go to the poor and then he doesn't need to travel. The argument must be properly straightened. In Parliament, we know, as a matter of fact, that Parliament has its budget. And members of Parliament travel for programs and Parliament pays for it. When, say, Parliament has exhausted its budget, there is an internal mechanism to assist when the leadership from both sides decide that, oh, this program, maybe nominate 2, nominate 3, Parliament that cannot support with its budget. Perhaps they may fall on a relevant institution to support, or perhaps they may fall on national security to support in the capacity building of those persons, including parliamentary staff. It's an institutional matter. Unfortunately, when the politician's name is mentioned, hell breaks loose. So if you are not careful, the impression is that, oh, and Napo is a rich guy, Adjosafo privilege, then you have gone to get GETFund money. With all due respect, at the risk of being bashed on the social media, I want to situate the argument properly so that we don't get up and say that, oh, the politicians are thieves. They are taking undue advantage of us. If we crush the political class, there will be nothing left for our democracy. And we should all understand that.
So you're
let
saying,
me finish with respect. Let me finish the argument. I will allow you to ask
you're saying that.
Let me finish. I am saying that.
Hold on.
Samson, if you allow me to land. Samson, if you allow me to land.
Don't land. Let me moderate. You're saying that because we pay per diems from our taxes and we pay travel expenses, we should add scholarships. And we shouldn't have any problem about that. That's what you're saying.
I haven't said so. I am saying that in context, if there is, say, in Parliament, these institutions, Harvard, LSE, Cambridge, they write to Parliament. They advertise programs, training programs.
And they are making money.
I'll come to your point. Boss, I'll get to your point. If within those institutions, if you go to Ghana Education Service, Audit Service, all those institutions of state, they nominate people to go for such programs. People go for training. Recently, as a board chairman, they said that Washington, public-private partnership institution, I should go. I said, oh, I'm too busy, I cannot go. You go. There are programs that you are sponsored to participate. Even you, the university professors, there are programs outside the country that the university sponsors you to participate in. It happens all the time. I know it at UEW, I know it at UCC, it's all over.
Prof just said that some of the courses are available in
I'm
Ghana.
coming to that point. I will come there.
You know,
wait,
this
allow me to moderate.
Because you don't want me to make
a
the
regular stream of income for them.
Because if we are unable to make the point,
little money,
how would
we
people
could
listen and
deliver this
appreciate it?
year.
You won't make your point forever. That's why I moderate.
Something you can
No, wait.
No problem.
Relax. So, if, like he said, you're going to do a course on security, and it's available at Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training,
let's go give that money to them.
The state should spend in excess of maybe $40,000 plus for you to go 3 weeks and come back, and that's okay. You don't have any problem with it.
Okay, you've asked your question, so now let me answer you. I haven't said so, and I will never say so. And I haven't said this anywhere.
This has been done.
What I am saying is that the practice in our institutions has been supporting people for such programs. Now, as a result of this report, issues are being raised, including the fact that some of these courses can be offered locally. And our colleague here is saying that, look, you can help with these capacity building programs even in our local universities. I agree that upon this, we should now proceed and look at it so that the abuse, the wastes, will be minimized.
What is the abuse you're talking about? What is the waste you're talking about?
If you say that, for instance, the practice has been that you would want to give people the opportunity to study abroad, go for a training program overseas, and you say that, look, the cost implication, is high. However, locally, the same course is being offered at Kofi Annan. The same course is being offered somewhere. Let's take advantage. Now, there's something else I need to also point out, because this has come to my attention in my capacity as board chair, Ghana Water. I realize that in almost all our institutions, there are consultants from abroad who come present proposals all over. It's not today. Then they run training programs even locally, but so expensive. They charge dollars.
In fact, the former managing director of the IMF advised developing countries to rely less or use less foreign consultants.
No, what I'm saying is that even those institutions, they set up their own firm training programs, they charge dollars.
Okay.
Even you have locals that are charging fees that are so expensive. People participate in it. If we are saying that, well, let's minimize our patronage of foreign institutions, I agree, it makes a lot of sense. It will become cheaper for you.
Do you know of a precedent or history where those other countries where we sponsor our people to go, they use their tax money to sponsor their people to go another place to go and do those programs? Do you know of that?
I don't understand your question.
It doesn't happen.
I don't understand your question.
Okay. If you get to know the amount of money these so-called top universities are making from Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, through short programs, executive is so huge.
Okay. All right.
The point is that we can use these things to build local.
Let me share a few messages from our listeners and viewers. And okay. The man that you all have been asking, where is he? He will come very soon, but he's been also sharing a few messages that I want to share with you. It says that Kweku says some cases of surcharges and disallowances have been invalidated by the court. It's indicative of the fact that the Auditor General's report could contain factual errors and inaccuracies. In short, audit reports are not sacrosanct. They are subject to judicial review. Historically, there's nothing unusual or unprecedented about such auditing challenges or omissions. Either the auditors concede their errors and amend them, or the judicial processes are activated to cure the mischief. Okay, then Richard. Okay. So quite a load of your messages. I have to decide which one of them I am going to share. It says, you said somewhere, Pebu, that they look through the budget and GETFund, and they truly make provisions for scholarship secretariat and turn around to disburse that fund from their office. There was no other budget to scholarships other than the allocation to scholarship secretariat. Okay, you are saying we should get clarity from the guy who intervened, but the auditor general finds that almost every year they did more than they exceeded their budget allocation.
Yes.
In some situations, they exceeded by over 300%.
That's correct.
And the good news that we are being told now is that, which is good news comparatively, is that presently they have exceeded but by about 100%.
Wow.
Yeah, so they are doing a good job.
And they put in measures to correct. Yeah.
Now, Nanahese Ojiri says that, first of all, does the Auditor General's report